When I was a kid, I was really into dancing. I was like competitive tap dancer. I think at one point I had fantasies of like dancing behind like big pop stars, you know, and they're like cool hip hop teams and stuff. But now I taste a lot of coffee, and that's fine with me. My name is Bennett Cross, and I'm the green coffee assistant at Blue Bottle Coffee Company. If someone asked me really like, can you tell me really quickly what you do? I guess the most fun answer would be I taste coffee. That's what I do. I taste coffee for a living, though it's one part of a lot of things that I do. It's a dream job for me because it's something that I wanted to be a part of this side of things, and now I am. A typical day for me is I come to work and I cup coffee, so we cup every coffee that we roast the day after we roast it, and I'm in there with the quality control director and our lead roaster and kind of talking about like, is this coffee where we want it to be? Can we approach it in a different way? So this has a lot of jasmine. Sometimes you get like an orange blossom water kind of thing, like a floral citrus element that's really nice. This one, I do a lot of sample roasting, so when we're interested in buying a coffee, we get this little maybe 200, 300, 400 gram sample of coffee, and I have this little baby roaster that I roast coffee in, and then I'll go and produce a report that we then send back to the supplier, who can send it back down to the farm level or to the mill. Coffee is a really exciting thing. Coffee is like so dynamic, and there are so many different parts of the chain that are like super crucial, like, you know, where the coffee's planted and what's in the soil and what the rainy season looked like. And that's like all before you brew the coffee. And then you could like, oh, well, I use 200-degree water or 180-degree water. And it looks so simple, but it's not. And it's really crazy to me. And it tastes really good. And so that's like, you know, deliciousness is hard to argue with. My first exposure to coffee was in high school. My mom started just making me a cup of coffee and giving it to me on the way out the door. I remember the first time I like got the jitters from caffeine. I was like taking a quiz in my second period history class, and my arm was like, whoa. And I couldn't figure it out for a while. I was like, oh yeah, this is this coffee thing making me feel jittery. And then I went to college, and my freshman year roommate made his own coffee in the room. He wouldn't get coffee in the dining hall. And so he made me this coffee, and it was kind of like, oh, cool. And then I kind of started doing the science thing where it's like, what if I use 2 scoops of coffee instead of 3 scoops of coffee? And what if I use water right when it boils? Or what if I use it like 2 minutes later? And like, how does it change? And all these things. And so I got really into it, and that was kind of like the entrance to the rabbit hole that I jumped down. Towards the end of college, I was like really into coffee, and I had some friends who worked in the industry, and I had this short stint at a nice coffee bar in LA over the summer, and my major was called Multiple Intelligences, Music, Math, and Movement. And initially, it felt weird. It felt like, oh, I just spent all this money on this really nice college and this really funky degree, and now I want to go work in a cafe? You know, it's kind of like, it doesn't line up. My dad was kind of like, you know, if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. If you think you're going to go into education reform and you're going to hate yourself for the next 20 years, like, that doesn't sound legit. My cover letter to get hired at Blue Bottle talked a lot about how I wanted to do as many jobs in coffee as I could. I wanted to start as a barista because that's the most like accessible job you could have, but I wanted to try a lot of things. There's a cappuccino. Is that for you? There you are. Enjoy it. Have a lovely market. From the very beginning, I was so into it that it didn't feel like I I was working too hard or I was spending too much time at work because I wanted to be doing it. And that, I guess, showed quite a bit. So I went from a barista to a lead barista. I had a cupping shift where I would cup coffees on Sunday with the roasters. And then this job came up and it was like, that's what I want my next step to be. Roasting is a really fun part of my job, especially because it's kind of like it's me and the roaster. And like right now the coffee is starting to dry out. It's taking on heat, and it's letting out water. Once all the water is gone, it cracks, it makes this popping noise. Ooh, you hear that? It's about time to get cracking. One thing that my mom always stressed to me was that you have to advocate for yourself, that people aren't gonna do that for you. I made it very known that I wanted to do this. I wasn't like kind of quiet and sent an email. I went and talked to both of these people personally. I wanted them to know how serious I was about it, and it paid off, I guess. I mean, I'm sitting here right now, right? About to cup some coffee, so got it. If you want a job in coffee, start low and see how it is. Either start working on a production floor, start bagging coffee, and try to slip your way into the cupping room and start tasting coffee and hearing what the roasters are talking about, or go get a job at a cafe. Learn about dialing in coffee, like I was talking about all the variables that go into coffee, like go home and make a cup of coffee and grind it on number 7 and then grind it on number 9 and then blow your mind when they don't taste the same. And play around. I mean, it's a pretty fun thing. If there's a job out there that is something that you're interested in and you have ideas about how it would work and you could bring something to that job, someone needs to do it, and that person could be you. And you won't know until you find out. You have to put in a resume. Like my mom said, the worst that they could say is no. And then what happens? You go back to what you're doing and you try again next time. Pick yourself up and you try again. Like that song, that Beyonce song. Pick yourself up and try again. Beyonce?
Now to see if I can
Destiny's Child, I think. Yeah.